release. OK, well, we're joined now from New York by Dalia Fahmy. She's an assistant professor of political science at Long Island University and a member of the Egyptian Rule of Law Association. Great to have you with us on the programme. I guess one of the problems is that Trump probably won't see it being in his interest or in America's interest to raise the issue of human rights with Sisi.
Well, that is because we continue to see places like Egypt as one of two sides of the same coin, either stability through extreme repression or instability through the democratic process. And so we couch it in terms of this terrorism narrative, where terrorism is a pretext. It's a pretext that allows us to ignore the fact that there are between 40 to 50,000 political prisoners today in Egypt. There are over 300 disappeared persons. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, there are currently 23 journalists. And most telling between a meeting between the Egyptian and the American presidents is that President Trump did not bring up the fact that there are 7 Americans currently held as political prisoners in Egypt. Young people, young protesters, or young people who were trying to call for democracy, for example, on their summer vacation. So for an American president to not push for the release of 7 young Americans from the Egyptian government is really quite troubling.
What cooperation do you think Trump is looking to get from Sisi?
Well, viewing Egypt as through the lens of the war on terrorism reduces it to just that. And so when we saw that candidate Trump had a meeting with Sisi back in September, one of the first people to call him after he won in November was President Sisi. And then right after his inauguration, one of the first meetings to be set up that was postponed twice was with a delegation from Egypt. And that is because Egypt is trying to carve itself a greater role in this power struggle in the Middle East, where Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Iran and Israel are increasing in their influence in the region, and Egypt has diminished because of the internal stability it's been going under in the past 2 years.
What about the issue of the Muslim Brotherhood? Clearly, Sisi is going to go to Washington and hope to be able to persuade Trump to designate the group as a terrorist organisation. Do you think the Trump administration will agree to that, or do they realise that it could have huge ramifications right around that region if it did indeed do so?
So Muslim Brotherhood designation has historically been a pretext that many governments hide behind. We saw the UAE designate the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization as a way to clamp down on oppression, while, for example, the UAE also considers Amnesty International an organization that is problematic. The designation did not work in Great Britain last summer, and so they did not designate. The push to have the United States designate it will help President Sisi not just marginalize, but it will undermine the legitimacy of the Muslim Brotherhood, but also freeze their funding. And the other thing that they hope to accomplish is that this will become a pretext with which to squash voices of dissent and to actually go after voices in the diaspora community in the United States that are very vocal against the Sisi regime. And so it's not so much about terrorism as it is about controlling the narrative of dissent and political opposition.
Dalia Fahmy, great to have you with us on the programme. Appreciate your time. Thank you.